up, fam? Rafael Cortez here, back on the CEO Pulse podcast, where you get the real, the raw, and the mind of entrepreneurship. I'm sitting down with none other than Mr. Max Jimenez right now.
What's up, brother?
Brother, it's been a while. I'm so happy to have you on the show. Max is the owner of Max Cash Offers. He's also a partner to Steve Trank for the Real Estate Disruptors movement, which is a massive, massive movement. It started in the Valley. Now it's grown to be a national, recognized brand.
Yep.
And you guys are also the creators of one of the top sales programs, specifically in real estate negotiation kind of stuff.
Yep.
So in our world, it's one of the top sales programs out there available.
Yep.
So man, I know I've known you for years, and just to see the evolution of what the person that you've become over the years, it's been amazing, man.
I appreciate it, man. No, I'm happy to be here, and I appreciate that. Yeah,
yeah, bro. So I mean, right now you guys are crushing it with your own wholesale and real estate fix and flip business, and then again, like I mentioned, you're tapping into coaching, and you have a really good solid program. But tell me how that all of that got started. Tell me about you, like your story from the beginning, and how you got to the point where you're at.
Yeah, I guess if we start from the beginning, obviously, just like everyone else, I mean, I'm pretty sure, you can have this similar story. A lot of guys that are listening or people that are listening, at some point, I always wanted to do my own thing, right? I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I knew that was what I wanted to do. I just didn't know what. And so if I sit here and tell you everything that I tried, everything that I failed at, we'd be here all day, right? And so I tried many things. So mostly, just like every Hispanic person, my background was all just, it was construction, was handyman, was,
Same here, dude.
Yeah. So what can I get my hands on where I can work with my hands, right? And so it's always been like that. And around, I want to say in 2006, I met a friend of mine that was doing real estate, which kind of intrigued me. He would tell me what he would do, fix houses, flip them. And obviously, it's always been something that I looked at, but I never got into it back then. And then, so, obviously we know what happened that, the next 2 years, the market crashed and all that. Mm-hmm. And so, but from those years, it kind of was, I was wondering, right? I don't know if you ever read the book, what is it? Outwitting the Devil, right?
Oh, yeah.
You have your drifters and I wasn't necessarily drifting. Like I had I wanted to do something, but I didn't know what that was, right? Like I wasn't preparing myself, the mental aspect of it and which direction to go. And so I did a lot of things. And then about 2010, I was like, I don't know what to do anymore. So my stepdad was doing plumbing, commercial plumbing. And so what I did is like, let me go do that for a little bit, a couple months, 6 months. So I figure out what I want to do. So those 6 months, couple months turned into about 4 years.
Wow. You kind of fell into it by accident, but then you just started working in the trades, right?
Yeah. And I moved up pretty quick. I mean, by the third year, man, I was already a leadman, which means that you're right underneath the foreman that's running the job. So I was getting paid almost foreman wages. And so just because, dedication and, building that discipline, and so, about 2014, I want to say, the real estate market started to shift again. And so, again, it sparked my interest. And so I reached out to that friend and I said, hey, Randy, his name was Randy. And I say his name was because he passed away in 2015. So I reached out to him. And then what I did is say, hey, look at the real estate market is coming back up. What do you think about getting back in? And obviously, what is the first thing that we all think about when it comes to real estate is buy a house, fix it, and then sell it, right?
Right.
But before you do that,
especially if you're in the trades. I mean, if you're in the middle of construction, you're going to think construction.
Exactly. You're going to think construction. And so I did, right? I started doing research. Back then, obviously, you know this, Craigslist was really good to find deals. That's where a lot of the wholesalers, which I didn't know at the time were wholesalers, were posting their deals on there. So I would see like these deals, like buy this property for this much. And I would make phone calls, right? And they would say, hey, yeah, if you want this property, can you close in 7 days? It's all cash. And I'm thinking to myself, like, wait, I can't do that.
What do you mean? I got to buy a property cash?
Yeah, exactly. Like, don't I have to go get a bank loan and all this? So I kept going. Nothing was happening. I want to say that was late 14 into 2015. Mid 2015, I was still working my job while I was doing this. And so in 2015, my mother-in-law actually said, hey, you know what? Why don't you call the realtor that helped me buy my house? Maybe she'll give you a little bit of guidance. And so she gave me the number, called her up. and she lived in Florida, mind you. So she was no longer here. So I called her up and I said, hey, I know that you helped my mother-in-law buy her property. She also mentioned that you were also involved with some investors, and that's kind of what I want to do. My background's construction.
Yeah.
You know, I want to get into fixing houses.
If you got a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Yeah, exactly. So then she's like, you know, I'm no longer part of that world. I live in Florida now, and so you can. By then, I'm like, man, this thing's not going anywhere. But I wasn't giving up, right? Like, this thing's not going anywhere. And what's interesting is that before that call, before we hung up, she said, you know what? And it was like a long pause. Like, I'm no longer in that world. I don't do that. And I'm like thinking to myself, man, okay, well, what should I do next? So then she says, you know what? But there is someone that you can look up that's there where you live. She goes, and she gave me Sean's name, Sean Terry. She goes, look up Sean Terry. And I said, and I'm thinking to myself, like, who the heck is Sean Terry? Like, you know what I mean? Like, now I got to call somebody else. That's the mindset, right?
Yeah.
But so I didn't look him up that night. The next day, I came home, Googled Sean Terry, right? And I downloaded the ebook. I went to the website and I read that thing for like 3 to 4 times that same night. I'm like, what does this say? Like, you don't need the money. You don't need like this. Like, it blew me away, right? Like, I wasn't expecting to see that because all I know was, you got to go get the loan. You got to go find the property, you know, and then you fix it up and then you sell it.
This was what year?
This was mid 2015. Yeah, I want to say somewhere like around June. I want to say June or July, somewhere around there. And then, downloaded the ebook, read it 3 or 4 times. The next day, I called my friend. I said, Randy, you're not gonna believe this. I found this guy. He's here, Sean Terry. He's got this ebook. I'm gonna send it to you. This is what he says. He says you can do X, Y, Z. You can get a contract and then another contract. And I'm still trying to understand all this, but man, he says you absolutely need no money. Yeah. And then so the first thing out of his mouth was like, "Is this guy legit or what?"
Yeah, you're getting robbed.
Yeah, you're getting robbed. And so then you know, he was here. So then I started going to the meetups, and then by October of 2015, it ended up going to Extreme Freedom. And that's where the journey really started. Is I really hadn't done anything, right? All this time, it had been a process of going through loopholes and you know, and I could have gave up right at any point in that time. But it's interesting. And now looking back, it was like a lesson, right? Because sometimes what happens, we give up too early. And so if I would have gave up before I even made that call to that realtor, she never would have gave me Sean's name. If I would have said, you know what, why do I need to go look up Sean? Like, you know, I would have never found that out. And so I went to the event, and you know, from that event, that's when I made a big turn going forward. Yeah,
it's crazy, and yeah, I mean, the catalyst, I think for a lot of people, you know, at least here in Maricopa County, was Sean, right?
Yeah,
I mean, same deal for me.
100%.
I was doing fix and flip. I was, you know, just tapping into other stuff, and then I figured this out. I got, you know, the opportunity to be in that world, and it was just, you know, from that point forward, like game over. This is what I'm doing. Like this is you know, this is the thing.
One interesting note that I want to add on there is 2 years prior to that, I started to get into, and this was accidental, I started getting into self-development. So I started reading more. I started, you know, it's kind of cool to see this because Facebook reminds you, you know, of your memories.
Oh, yeah.
So like I look back like 2 years before I even went to Sean's event, I start getting these pop-ups, and it's actually cool because I'm actually quoting some of the stuff I now read, which I had no idea what it was about. So the transition was already happening, like that mindset shift was already happening before I got there.
Well, I think when we put ourselves in a space where we start to acknowledge new things, the things become more evident. I don't know if that makes sense, but you start to. It's kind of like when you buy a white car. You see white cars everywhere, right? Yeah. And you got into a mindset or into a thought process where you're looking at real estate investment deals. Yeah. And now, okay, cool. Now you're paying attention. Oh, this person does it too. This person does it too. This person does it too. Yeah. But it just kind of pops in your radar, right? It's the intention behind the attention that you're putting, you know, into things. Exactly. So it's pretty interesting, man. And so you come from the labor force, same as, you know, most of us, right? Yeah. And you just, you know, kind of carving your way through the process, and you get to a point where you see right now, for example, everything that you guys have accomplished. Yeah, exactly. I mean, the real estate disruptor movement, it's insane. Like it's changed a lot of people's lives. Just understanding and bringing the awareness over to the, you know, 100%, to the table, man.
I want to share some real quick. So I spoke last week, actually, with Sean was there, so he spoke right after me at an event that Ramon put together. Yeah. So one thing that I noticed, which was, it's always good to see this, right? Because when you're in the middle of all this storm, what's happening, you don't get to stop and realize how much of an impact you're making.
Yeah.
So the event, he had probably, I would say, more than 500 people there. And so one of the cool things that I saw a lot was how people are being impacted by the podcast, by, the things that we're doing through Real Estate Disruptors. And even some of the speakers, man, that were up there, I mean, they were giving shout outs like, hey, if you guys have not look them up now. And so it's always cool to see how that evolved and how much impact we're making on that. Yeah.
Well, that brings me back to the entrepreneurial mindset. I mean, it's when we're getting started, I think the challenge is it's evident, right? We don't always have, the answers. I mean, actually, we don't have any answers.
Correct.
And it's about taking that first step forward, right? Mm-hmm. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know, we can have an idea of what the future looks like, right?
Yeah.
But until we actually start, walking on that path, it doesn't start to clarify. It's muggy, it's cloudy, it's it's not defined.
Correct.
So, having the guts to jump into something new, just because you have this gut feeling, right?
Right.
Like, all right, it feels right. I'm gonna go after it, which is what you did.
Yeah.
And it's led you to this space. Now, let me go, and this is almost gonna be like a rhetorical question, but. Back, if you put yourself back, you go back to 2015.
Right.
Would you did you imagine that what's happening right now in 2021 was going to be happening in 2021?
So
did you see it as clear as it is
I didn't
right
see
now?
it. I didn't see it at this scale, but we were talking earlier before we did the podcast. Like, I'm always thinking like, how better can things be, right? Like, I'm always thinking ahead, and I think that's the visionary side. Always like, I know this could be like this, and I know this, and so I imagined that I was going to be in a position of impact, because that's always been my thought and my purpose is impact first. But I didn't know like at what scale, right? I didn't visualize it at this scale and where we're at now. But for sure, I mean, I visualized at some point I was going to be here, impacting other lives, because that's always been the goal for me. Yeah.
Well, and I think we start off with that, but then we often forget about the ripple effect, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna have a conversation with somebody who's gonna, be impacted or steered by something that he hears you say or something.
Yeah.
Then they're gonna have a conversation with 10 other people.
Yeah.
But that ripple effect is gonna have massive, results. You just don't know where that stops, and I think that's one of the beautiful things about, having the power to voice. What you're doing, right?
Yeah.
To put yourself out there is one thing. It takes a while. At least I know it does. It does for me, right?
Yeah, you
put
gotta be a little crazy,
man.
Yeah.
And that zero fucks given feeling every now and then. I mean, which is it's somebody's just gotta roll with it. But but at the end of the day, if we sit back and we think about the possibilities or the good outcomes that whatever comment, whatever podcast, whatever post, whatever event that you speak at, like, what's that gonna happen?
Yeah.
You were at one in 2015, which totally rocked your world.
Oh yeah,
like
100%.
I mean, who knows? Life might have been different, right?
Yeah.
Had we not ran into Sean, who's voicing his opinion, his talents, and his stuff. So
Correct.
I think as entrepreneurs, we have that responsibility to do that if we feel like we have something good to offer. It's not even at that point, it's not even a sales pitch. It's just a responsibility.
That's a very good point, man. And I'm glad you brought this up, because I've had this conversation with so many people. I've actually always like, I don't have anything to give. I don't know what to talk about. I don't know what to post. And one of the things I always tell people is just be sincere. Post content based on the content of your character, who you are. Yeah. You don't got to be a totally opposite 180. You just got to talk about your journey. What you're going through, what's happening right now. People are curious, and they're like, and if they can see that you're actually doing it based on the struggles and everything that you made it out of, that gives them a little bit of hope for them to do it. Yeah.
Well, that results help too. Yeah. Show me the HUDs.
Show me the HUDs. Yeah.
Shout out to Steve. But yeah, man, it's important to stay in that mindset, right? And so we do that with the people in the community in general, but we also, I think we take that to a higher level when it comes to our teams.
Correct. Exactly. 100%.
Yeah, I mean, so it's the same. It's coming in and operating from the same capacity, not necessarily, or not only from the experience level and wanting to thrive level, but also from the context of mindset and keeping people with a healthy, vision of what the whole thing looks like, which is one of the things that I want to talk to you about. You guys have grown, the movement, right? Real estate disruptors movement. You've grown the coaching business. You've grown the wholesale business.
The real estate business. Yeah,
real estate business. It's wholesaling and then fix and flipping.
Yep.
And one cool thing that I see you guys doing is growing as a team.
Yeah.
I mean, every single time we talk, it's not a me talk. It's not a my company talk. It's
Correct.
not it's us. It's an us thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's something that Steve and I have shared since we partnered up, right, 3.5, almost 4 years ago, is that we're all on a mission to get better. We're all on a path to do something better with ourselves. So one of the things that me and him made a mission to is not when we hire people, obviously, right, is for them to. We have a model, right? You don't come work for us, you come work with us. That's
right.
all, I've always said that.
100%.
Yeah, you don't come work for me, you come work with me, and it's side by side. And so when the team comes to work, we want them to feel like they're coming into somewhere with purpose, somewhere where they're going to grow, somewhere where they're going to, because we all get in this for a reason, right? And it's not just to come and make calls. Like, that's the last thing we want them to feel like. We want them to feel like they're coming in, and we created that culture. We've created that environment. So when you see the videos, I include them in the videos. I include them in many aspects of growth, right? And I spend a lot of time with them too, developing them, helping them, because we want them to feel. I always say, so we have 5 core values, and the number 1 core value is growth mindset. And so we hire based on that. If you don't have that, honestly, you won't be hired on our team. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, growth, well, you have 5 core values. That's one of them.
Yeah.
I'm curious about the other 4.
So it's growth mindset, integrity, self, others first, commitment, and then the last one we added was urgency. Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
Call to action, right? I mean, at the end of the day, nothing happens if nobody moves.
Nobody moves.
So,
exactly.
I like the culture. I like the overall, way that you guys conduct business, and you've been very methodical. Like, I remember from day one. I mean, you and I have had conversations since like 2015, and every single time it's about, okay, cool, just kind of trying to refine stuff, making it a little better.
Yeah.
And we have multiple times where we sit down and then look at it, the operating system, and then what gaps can we fill in. Now let's switch gears a little bit and talk about like an actual sales process, right?
Yeah.
Because it's one of the things that you guys excel at.
Yep.
How important is it to have a good solid sales, not just step 1, step 2, step 3, but an actual system, like an actual sales system in place, to get stuff done.
So here's the way I look at this. So we're always as real estate, especially in wholesaling. I don't know, I'm not another other sales and car dealer, and I think this happens in car dealerships. We're always looking for what we call in the PI profile, which is the predictive index. We're looking for what's called the maverick. We're looking for that guy that's rugged, that's gonna go get it, that doesn't want to sell. The problem with that is that a lot of times those type of guys don't follow the process. They'll stick around for 3 months, 6 months, and then they're gone, right? That's my profile. I'm a maverick. And so, but if you have a system and you have like a legitimate process, you don't need to hire that typical profile. You can hire, if you can have a process where you can grab somebody and plug them in, and you have that specific process that's going to teach them, hey, you follow this process and you put every prospect through this process, it's going to be rinse and repeat. You're going to automatically know that you cannot go to the next step, or you can't push them to the close if you haven't gotten them through the pain question. Right. You can't push them, you can't talk about money if you haven't gotten this information. So you don't necessarily need that type of personality. Now we can find someone that's willing to follow a process. Obviously, you still need that person that's going to eventually need to ask for that sale, because we're in sales and we need to ask for the sale. But now you can, what it helps with is when you hire someone, now and here's the other thing too, is that those people are going to buy into your culture, right? They're gonna have that personality that not only gonna follow the process, but they're going to buy into your culture, and they're going to stick around for a long time too, as well, because they're not that high driver, that rugged. I need to have a different scenario every single day.
Yeah, it comes down to the right butts in the right seats, right?
Correct,
I think however, I think one mistake that's often done is hiring based on who you like.
Exactly.
And I mean, I know I did that at the beginning. And yeah,
I think we all have, bro.
I like that person. You know what? You and I get along great. Yeah, but you need somebody for, follow-ups or something, and they don't have the discipline for that.
Exactly.
Or you don't have the system in place for that.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter how much you like a person. You have to, think about the requirements that it's going to take. At a behavioral stand, what are the behavioral strengths? It's one of the biggest things I think, in my opinion, that have to kind of play into place. But it's part of it, right?
Yeah.
So you can pick somebody from assessments and all that stuff, but if you don't have a good solid structure, a good process for people to follow, you're gonna lose them.
Yeah, and that's only one part. So this is how important it is, because you asked earlier, what's the importance of having that perfect sales process, right? It goes from there. It starts there. It starts at the hiring. And then once you plug someone in, the right person, the right button, the right seat, is now they can rinse and repeat. It's how you're gonna get the deal. It's repeatable. It's something that's continuous. You're not twiddling. How did I get that deal? What happened? Like, where did I get that deal? That doesn't happen anymore, right? And so you're able to establish that process for your acquisition, or whoever it is that's doing the sales. They don't have to deviate. They don't have to think on what they're gonna say next. Everything's already there established for them, so they can just pick up and run with it.
So we have to kind of recap on what we've covered so far. You have 5 principles that you follow, and then you have a good solid system in place.
Yeah.
So those are tools, right?
Yeah.
Those are tools. Those are like almost the tangible things that we can count on to build a team.
Right.
However, what's the sauce that creates the bond? Because you guys are pretty united. You guys are always together and talking about deals, and then interacting and doing all that kind of stuff. So how does that work? And then how do you get to a point where you're elevating the team as well to produce like the great results that you guys are having in terms of revenue?
It's for us, it's really simple, and it could be some different for anybody else. We're a big believer in hiring and firing based on core values, right? So core values. So what happens a lot of times, people who have core values, they make them up. So the way that we and this is not something I came up with. We learned this as well, right? They're making a lot of mistakes. Our core values that we have are actually mine and Steve's. Like when we had Gary Harper come out to the office, we redid our core values. They were different a year ago. So when he put us through this exercise, and he had us do who are 3 people that have impact, or who are 3 or 4 people that have impacted you? How have they impacted you? And I can't remember the third question. So we wrote down. He goes, you got to write down 7 to 8 things how they impacted you. So we did. So I picked 3 or 4 people. I wrote down 7 to 8 things, and then as he put them together, there was a sequence of what was popping up: entrepreneurship, integrity, and so that's how we came up with those core values. So that's the first step. So basically, that's how we, if we have team members, when we're hiring them, we have very strategic questions, right? We ask them strategic questions to figure out. We don't say, here, do you have integrity? Like, they're going to say, yeah, I'm integral.
Yeah. How's your integrity today?
You read the book, right? Like, what is it? Who, not how, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely,
there's some very strategic questions in there.
Yeah.
So we created some strategic questions to find out where they are in growth mindset, where they are in how integral they are. Are they committed? Are they going to put others first? And then do they have a sense of urgency? So the secret sauce is that for us is hiring around those core values, because the problem is that if you build a culture, and let's say that you have 3 team members that that live and die by that culture and those core values, you bring in 2 more team members that not growth mindset, that don't have urgency. Well, what's going to happen to those other 3 members? They're gonna be like, "Wow, what's going on here?" Because these guys drink the Kool-Aid, bro. You know what I mean? Like these guys,
it's
and you
like
got
a bad apple. It just starts spreading. Yeah.
So for us, that's the secret sauce: is we hire and fire based on core values. And I actually fired a guy. I wouldn't say fire because I don't really like that word. It was a teaching moment for him, and he had 25 days in.
The teaching moment just happened outside the company.
Yeah, no. I mean, here's the way I look at it, right? Because, 25 days in, by the 28th day, I sat down with him and I said, like, hey, when we hired you, we spoke about our number 1 core value is growth mindset. Yeah. And it just don't seem like you enjoy books. You don't enjoy growth. And he acknowledged, he's like, yeah, man. He goes, I don't really care
not my
about that
thing.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not my thing. So it allows us to identify that, right? And that's what has helped us to create that culture. And I always say this, and people laugh. Like, our guys that we have now, they're not just drinking the Kool-Aid, bro. They're swimming in it. Like, they're dyed, you know.
Yeah, yeah, they're dyed.
whatever that color is, they're dyed in it. But yeah, that's the secret sauce for us, bro.
I love it, man. I have three simple principles that I follow, and I don't know. I think they encompass everything. I take a slightly different approach.
Sure.
I feel like like in my businesses, everything's an elevator. Like it's not. It's not a staircase. Everybody moves, up at the same time, right? Like the whole thing is an elevator platform. Is what it is. And I see the business model or everything that I do as a vehicle.
Got it.
So some people have different different ideas, different goals, different mindsets, and some people are completely happy making calls all day long. Some people want to do more and become entrepreneurs. So I think having that range it's one of the great things about having the ability to operate under a company that helps support that culture. The three that we have is, the first one is radical transparency.
Got it.
The second one is extreme ownership.
I love that.
And then the third one is people over profits. That's it. So we're never going to screw anybody up.
Yeah.
People over profit. The cool thing about it, when it clicked, when it landed, is that when they, when during the meetings it comes up, oh, you know what, I was going to lock up this deal, but it just didn't feel right, man. People over profits. And they start repeating these things to you. Awesome. It becomes a way of doing business, right? But whatever the core principles are, it's at the end of the day, it's a beacon or a guideline for behavior, right? And a guideline for the quality of the people that you're going to have inside your business. But it's not just a slogan. It's not a poster on the wall.
No,
it used to be that back in the 90s, and it was like a lot of corporate companies still treated that way. But at this point in time, it's not that. Like people want to belong somewhere.
Yeah, we call it. So we're going through a training round with Darren Hardy. It's called the Hero's Journey, and it's called 20th Century Leadership, right? So basically, on 20th century leadership means like, hey, this is the line you cross or you're fired, right? Like that old style, like I'm the boss and I'm the one, you got to do what I say. So what he talks about there is being a C21 leader, which means that you have to understand that people now don't just come to work for a paycheck. They come to work for a purpose, to be part of something bigger than what the money is. Yeah, of course, people still need money. They still want to make money. But at the end of the day, if that's all they're making, then they're not going to be happy. They're just not going to want to be there. Who wants to come in and make calls 8 to 10 hours just to get a commission at the end of the day and not be part of anything else bigger than that? Exactly.
And I think we're in a stage where people are waking up.
Oh yeah, 100%.
People are starting to realize, all right, wow, I've been dead for 8 hours a day for the past 10 years.
Right.
Life happens outside those hours, right? Unless you're doing your own thing, and then you have that sense of purpose going on. But I think people want to go somewhere where they feel like they're making an impact. Of course. They feel like they have the ability. Not necessarily. A lot of people don't want to fly by themselves.
Yeah.
Like that's the reality of things.
Oh, yeah,
right?
100%.
A lot of people don't want to fly by themselves, but they want to fly in a space that they have this degree of freedom. They know they can go play around or I'm sorry, go play outside of the margins and be their own character, be their own person, and then have a big sense of purpose at the end of the day.
No, because like entrepreneurship is hard, bro. You know that. So what happens is
gotten hit a few times.
Right. Been hit a couple of times, low blows. But so a lot of people can't. I don't want to say can't, but they reach a point where like maybe just being an entrepreneur is hard. So what's the second phase is the intrapreneur, right? Yeah. Working within the company and having the capability of doing everything you just said, navigating, being their own person, and that's kind of a lot of people actually thrive a lot more in that role than being themselves, being an entrepreneur and having to deal with everything. Yeah.
Entrepreneur versus intrapreneur.
Correct. Yeah.
I love that, man.
Yeah.
I love that. So, how do you feel that taking it back to coaching? I like putting this out there, kind of. I mean, to me, coaching is one of those things, or one of those gifts that forces me to hold the space.
Yeah.
So I gotta hold that space. If I'm coaching anybody on how to wholesale, on business, on whatever, I gotta hold that space,
Yeah,
right?
you
It's
do.
not it's not okay. I read a book, now I'm gonna tell you about it. No, you're doing it. It's happening. It's live. You're
That
in the
happens.
middle of it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. So but it's a place where you end up holding this space and it becomes a habit, and then
Yeah.
it becomes you.
Correct.
So you automatically just kind of elevate, right?
Yeah, of course.
To a better version. Why? Because you're holding that space for people around you. You're
Correct.
holding that space for, and you don't have to be coaching, but as an entrepreneur or business owner,
Yeah.
you're holding that space for your team if you
Of
care
course.
enough.
Yeah.
How's that work? Like, how does that translate to you? Like, how does it happen the same way, or?
As far as the mindset that we need, I'm a big believer in that. Like, I believe that if you're gonna be, if you want to say teaching something or coaching on something, I think you have to have some type of level of transparency, right? Some type of level of integrity behind that. We see that we see that a lot.
A lot of level.
A lot, yeah, a lot, so that's one of our goals is, obviously we know that sometimes it goes like this, sometimes it goes like this, but we always want to maintain that integrity. If we're gonna, I still go to sales training, once a week at least. I try to go, and I try to keep myself up, because if I'm teaching it, I better be learning it. I better stay on top of my game, and I still get coached myself on certain things because I'm still growing, and so. Real estate, the same thing. We don't do a lot of wholesaling per se, like coaching. Most of our stuff is sales, but we do teach on sales, on how to get deals. So
Right.
so basically, we have to also we have to show that part of our business. Like, look, we have the system in our business.
This
Like
is
this is
happening.
happening.
This is
Like
working, yeah.
and I think we do a very good job of showing that. What we're teaching and what we're coaching to others as far as the sales training. We were very transparent, and people see that we use it in our business with our sales guys, our acquisition guys, and I think that's it. I don't know. I mean, I believe that I'm a big believer in that, bro. I think it has to be hand in hand for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I completely agree. I don't think it can happen in two different worlds, right?
Yeah. No.
If you're gonna be instructing somebody, and they're gonna put their trust on you, you have to
Correct.
be, walking the walk.
Yeah.
So how going through all this stuff, I mean, and obviously you've evolved as a person since in the last 6 years. I mean,
Yeah.
it's been super fast. Actually, 2 years before then you started doing personal growth, right? So
Correct.
it's kind of
Yeah,
like, I mean, to me it's when you have when you take the ownership of your path. Like, okay,
Yeah.
the first personal growth book that I picked up was on this date. Boom, that's when you're born again.
Yeah.
It's a completely different
Correct.
path.
100%.
So how have you dealt with, and this is I mean, it's really a personal question, because I know it took me a long time to figure out like my shit, to figure out the stuff that was holding me back,
Right.
to figure out my own limitations and fears and what that looked like, right? My own sense of scarcity, my own sense of risk, and that sort of thing. How have you dealt with that over the last 6 years?
So I think one of the biggest thing is I'm a big believer in the mindset shift, right? Because what happens, why do people always quit? Because they work, they're going at it, they're going hardcore, and so what happens is that they don't train the mind either, right? They don't get into the mindset shift, and so and they run into obstacles, they run into hard situations, and guess what? They're gonna quit. They're gonna quit no matter what, because they haven't shifted their mindset. So, the first couple of years for me was really difficult, because you go through this, and I think a lot of people go through this. I don't know if you heard it, but it's kind of called the imposter syndrome, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where a lot of times you're doing everything you're supposed to be doing, but you still don't feel like you're there yet.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've had multiple books that I've read, but what really changed my perspective on things is that I actually started getting into my networking with in masterminds, right? Where there were some like people that were doing a lot more than I was, and what that showed me was that hey, you know what? Actually, where the direction that I'm taking is going to put me where those guys are. Like, I'm doing the right thing. Eventually, I was able to get across that mindset to be able to, because I'm looking at these people that are like, man, these guys are crushing it. Like, and they were here where I was at. So that gave me that inspiration to, but I had to put you have to be vulnerable, if that's the word.
Vulnerable,
yeah, vulnerable at some point, and realistic with yourself, because.
Well, no, I mean, you're doing it's completely understand what you're saying. I think it comes from we have like that emotional setback, right?
Oh,
That
yeah.
emotional wall that's right in front of us.
Yeah.
To me, I know that what worked to kind of get across that threshold was understand that there was an emotion there,
Yeah.
and I had to turn it into something logical.
Yeah.
So in my head, okay, I mean, I had to get pragmatic about it. I had to get tasky about it. I had to, kind of disconnect from my from my higher self and into the human self and make it make sense in my head logically, like step 1, step 2, step 3. These guys, and I know we were having a conversation a while back, and you gave the example of like during a sales conversation, you're in chapter 9, we're in chapter 2.
Yeah.
We need to figure out what happens. Yeah, all right. So understanding that I was in chapter 2 at that point in my journey, and these guys were, in chapter 11, 12.
Yep.
All right, cool. I just got to read more in that book. That's it.
Yeah.
And it became logical. So it became I understood it that way first, right?
Correct.
And then I was like, I started adopting it, but then I started to believe it.
Yeah.
Once I had that, it clicked.
Yeah.
And the whole thing just changed. I had the skills, I had the track record, I had everything in place. I just didn't have that belief.
Yeah. And I think one big thing that a lot of people don't do, and this took me a little while, right, to learn this as well, is what do you want? Right? Like you gotta have that honest conversation. The hardest thing to do with yourself is assess yourself, right? Assess your mentality.
You can
Assess
bullshit
where you're at.
anybody.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You're not gonna bullshit yourself. When you're
Right.
sitting there by yourself, crying in the corner, you're not gonna be bullshitting yourself.
You're not. And a lot of people don't do this, man. You have to be somewhat a little bit crazy on that side, but you gotta say, what is it that you want? What do you want to get out of life? What do you want to get out of this journey that you're on? And I think once you do that, something clicks. Too many people don't do that just because they feel like maybe they're lying to themselves. I don't know what it is, but that helped me as well too, is figuring out, okay, this is what I want to kind of share that with you. And when we started the podcast, is my goal, I saw myself, giving back, having a purpose, and having an impact, right? And I always knew that was going to happen, and I was going to use this vehicle to make that happen. Yeah.
Yeah, there's always a sense of I mean, to me, there was always a sense of the need for validation, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, that was just like a recurring thing that kept popping up.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I feel like I got what it takes, but I'm not sure. I feel like somebody has to tell me that I got what it takes.
Yeah.
Or I feel like I have to see it somewhere. I have to, and it got to a point where I got tired. Like I got exhausted of that.
It did.
Like,
it does.
Fuck, dude. Like I got what it takes. Like, and this is me looking
I need
at
somebody
myself.
to tell me that.
Yeah, it's like me looking at myself in the mirror, and then just but getting across that point where you actually start believing, and then I think that's when the magic really happens. It takes a long. I mean, the point I'm trying to make here is that
it takes a while.
The entrepreneurial journey of the stuff that you have to do to build a business, it's gonna be tough, right? It's gonna be tough as nails.
Yeah.
But the mindset journey, the psychological journey that you're gonna go, the peaks and the valleys that you're gonna hit along the way, like that's gonna be 10 times as hard as picking up the phone and making a call.
Yeah, exactly.
Those are the battles within us that that really happen. And I think coming to a point where understanding there's stages to that, right? You get to a point where there's a lot of doubt, then you need validation at some point, and then you end up in a place where like, okay, I mean, I have a track record, I can see what I'm doing, like it's working, it's happening. When you believe it, when it comes to the point where you believe in yourself and you believe in your capacity, what you can do as a human being, the impact that you can have, game on, dude. I think that's where magic happens for
100%, man. One thing that was cool last week, like, because I'm past that point now where in my career, my life, and what I'm doing. And again, I'm not trying to say this. I've always had this mindset. Maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago is where I shifted completely. Like, I'm past that point from needing that validation and needing, what we're talking about right now. You're eventually going to get there because of you pushing through and never giving up and understanding that, you're going through this yourself. And so when we were at the event, I had my wife with me. She hardly goes to any events with me. So what was cool is that, we try to stay away and, because, with everything that's going on. So a bunch of people, I would say, came up to me, and so she was next to me, and what was cool to see, and again, not that I was looking for it, but it was really good to see that was a lot of people were saying, hey, what an awesome husband you have. Hey, your husband is like great. And so she was able to see a lot of that. Yeah. And so when we got home, she's like, man, she was pretty blown away, right? Like, 'cause she hadn't been around that. So even I was a little bit, because, I was like, man, that's amazing. Like, because I don't look for that. I don't ask them to say those things about me, right? So I was like, and again, that goes back to what I was saying. It's just the impact that we've been making on the road here. So
yeah, you release that need of. I don't know. I guess it's an insecurity too, right?
Correct. Yeah.
But you get, I mean, once you get to the point where, and it doesn't mean that you stop learning. I'm always going to be a student, right?
Yeah.
It's not that I know it all. It's just that the self-confidence,
Yeah.
That's kind of required to take that next step. It's just another stage. It's just another step. It's like the first time you figured out that you wanted to get into business and you bet on yourself. Like, okay, cool. That was one benchmark, right? This is just another space. And it happens, right? As you go through the process, if you stay in the process, if you stay in the trenches, well, not necessarily trenches, but if you stay in the world of entrepreneurship and betting on yourself for long enough, you start making an impact.
100%.
It doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter if it's real estate. It doesn't matter if it's a restaurant, whatever it is. You're going to make an impact with somebody, and that's going to have a ripple effect, and it's going to hit 10, 20, 30 other people or more. And I mean, you guys are. I mean, you have to. Your ripple effect, your guys' ripple effect, has to be in the millions.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I always get messages where like I don't even know who the person is, and like, hey Max, you help me out on this because of the one video that you posted last week.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a beautiful thing, right?
Yeah.
And when you're in that space, it becomes a responsibility to do it.
Yeah.
To me, pushing myself out of my comfort zone on a regular basis is one of those things. At this point, it's a game. It's like, all right, cool. How far can I push? Like,
no, it is.
That's
it
making
is.
me sweat.
Yeah. I want to go back to something
like
you said
it.
about like it's not an ego thing. I call it we talked about this actually on Monday. It's called the humble. What's the word? When you believe in yourself, what is the word? Humble confidence. Yes, humble confidence. Right. You're confident in yourself, but yet you're humble enough to learn and to be coachable, right? Because I think once you stop being coachable, I think that's pretty much the end, right? We're always learning from something, Yeah, no, for sure. I can learn something from someone that just started, right? I can learn something from you. I'm always learning. I'm always curious. And I think that's what really has gotten me here, right? Sometimes it's gotten me in trouble, but but it's gotten me here. But yeah, is that having that humble confidence? You get to that point where it's now like it's clockwork.
Yeah. No, I love it, man. So, if what would you say it's been one of the biggest things that's helped you evolve as a human being altogether, not just in the real estate world, but from 10 years ago to the person that you are now?
Yeah, so I think coaching, man, because I have a couple personal coaches, from my sales coach, that I got. I mean, the thing is with the sales training that we have, it's not just sales to get money, but it's a mindset. Because what happened, and that's really where I bought in. I'm really cautious of a lot of things that I want to bring into myself. So I'm a big believer that everything has to work together. Mindset, not just tactics, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so a lot of coaching programs or sales programs, they teach you tactics. Say this at this point, say that. And so rebuttals and all that, which is fine, whatever. But I'm a big believer that there's got to be a mindset behind it because you got to buy into that, right? Or else it's going to come out really bad. So that I also got a personal coach, not for my business, but for my personal side. That's about a year ago. That's helped me tremendously. I meet with him once a month, and he's basically an outsider, right? Mm-hmm. Tells me like, hey, here's what you're doing wrong. Like, so that's elevated me quite a bit to regards to tone down who I am, because I was the type of person that would be like, if I thought about it, I'm doing it, right? Entrepreneur, that is my A. Like, if you look at my predictive index, like my A has an arrow because it doesn't measure. Like, it's off the chart. Like, if I'm thinking about it, like, I'm doing it, right? I've been like that all my life. I've been very independent since I was like 12, doing my own thing. So it's always been like that with me. So, but hiring the coaches, bro, and not only the coaches, but the right coaches that align with your beliefs, that align with your thoughts and your mindset. You can't just have a coach, right, bro. There, it's huge, because you're gonna have someone that's gonna steer you the wrong way. So, and you gotta be cognitive of that. A lot of people just want to hire a coach and like, this guy's gonna make me better, but it's not aligning with who you are, your beliefs, and and also your integrity.
Well, the coach is a blueprint, right? But you still got to do the work.
Oh, of course.
You still
100%.
have to put in the time. You have to put in the work.
100%.
I have same thing. I have coaches. I've worked with my mindset coach or mental coach for the last 5 years, Alfonso. I actually had him on the podcast. But it's conversations like that. At the end of the day, they give you a different light.
Oh, yeah.
They give you a
100%.
different, sometimes being an entrepreneur, I always say it's kind of lonely, right? You have certain issues that it doesn't matter. You have a COO next to you. It's going to be different problems. Yep. The conversation is not, more than likely, it's not a conversation that you can, take home because they're not going to completely understand it. No. It's just different. It's a different space, right? Yep. You're leading from the front, and it can get, lonely sometimes. But having a place where you come back, and then you can just, pitch ideas around, get a different perspective, get a different, just vantage point of what's happening. Sometimes it's all we need. All right. It's just like, all right, cool. Just a little, shaking of the shoulders and then, getting back on the horse. We have to, the awareness has to be there that like there's places and resources that are available that you can go to get, better. And as an entrepreneur, you just don't stop. It's not like you open up a business and then boom, that's it. No.
I always like just to use layman term, like I always think about the Mario Brothers game, right? Yeah. Where you go, every level gets a lot harder. Yeah. And so a lot of people when they start, they think it's hard, right? Which it is, of course, at that level. Yeah. As you go higher, it's gonna not only demand, now it becomes demanding of yourself even more, like and so that's one thing that I'm learning right now. We did the what is it called? The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. I don't know if you've heard about that book. So basically, we're gonna do this with our acquisition guys too. So it's gonna be another activity to bring us a lot closer because, as you grow and as you take that leadership role, it's gonna demand more and more of you. So there's levels, bro.
Don't pray. What's the saying? Don't pray for it to get easier. Pray for you to get better.
That's Jim Rohn. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, man, I love it. Max, it's been a blast, brother. Tell me about your guys' a coaching program. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, find out maybe a little bit more information about that, how do they do it?
Sure. So the easiest way is you can go Instagram at Real Max Jimenez, at Real Max Jimenez. Mm-hmm. Send me a DM. We also have our website too. If people want to go to our website, there's a ton of information. We have actually a free course on there. So there's actually a free wholesaling course, and then in that course we talk more about sales because we're not teaching a lot on wholesaling. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube, but if you go to
it's one of the most integral parts. I mean, like sales cure all, right? That's what they say. You can have a really killer system in place, all the KPIs, all the metrics, all the spreadsheets, all the CRM and all that. But if you can't sell, you can't. You got nothing, bro.
Convert. I just made a video about that. Is everybody thinks they have a lead problem? It's not a lead problem. It's a conversion problem. But they can go to disruptors.com/Max, and there's a lot of information on there, so that way they can get it.
Disruptors.com/Max. Yep. All right, beautiful, brother. One last question. Yeah. If you were walking down the street and you ran into your 17-year-old self, what would you tell that Max Jimenez?
Wow.
What advice would you give that kid?
Yeah. I would say get ready.
I would elaborate.
At that age, if I sat here and tell you the whole story, I'll be here again. We'll do another podcast on that. I would say I would give the advice to stop, look, before you cross. Yeah, because basically the road that 17-year-old crossed was not the way they're supposed to go.
And stop, look, and then cross.
Yeah, stop, look, and then cross. Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. It's pretty solid advice. Yeah. Brother, it's been a blast having you, man. I appreciate it.
Yep, love it.
Love you, man. There you guys have it. Another episode of the CEO Pulse podcast with the one and only Max Jimenez. Boom! It's a wrap.